In today's video, we're diving into the story of the anime film Kazumo. The film opens with a title card displaying the dates from March 26th to April 7th, before introducing the main character, Koyomi Araragi. The first scene shows Koyomi walking, breathing heavily, with sharp fangs visible among his teeth. He reaches a door, opens it slowly, and steps onto a balcony. Suddenly, his eyes widen as he notices crows swarming the area, staring back at him. Descending a staircase, he watches the crows, and as he continues walking, the clouds part and the sun shines brightly. As the sunlight hits Koyomi, his body bursts into flames. Screaming in agony, he frantically runs around, scaring the crows away before he falls off the building. The story then flashes back to March 25th. Koyomi is walking down the street when a girl suddenly made worse by a nearby car crash. Koyomi stares at the girl, but she approaches him, commenting on how inconvenient skirts can be. As Koyomi tries to walk away, the girl chases after him, surprising him by calling him by name. She introduces herself as Tsubasa Hanakawa and reveals that they attend the same school. Tsubasa begins analyzing the meaning of Koyomi's name, impressing him. He recalls how she had achieved perfect scores in almost every subject during their second-year final exams. She teases him, suggesting he might be stalking her, but he quickly defends himself, saying he learned the information from a friend. Koyomi then admits that he doesn't have friends, emphasizing that Tsubasa is well known enough that even someone like him would know about her. She doesn't seem amused and tells him to stop. As they walk together, Tsubasa suddenly asks Koyomi if he believes in vampires. She shares an urban legend about a vampire in their town, warning him that it's unsafe to walk the streets alone at night. According to the rumor, the vampire has blonde hair and eyes that can freeze anyone in place. Koyomi is skeptical, trying to rationalize the story, but Tsubasa shrugs it off, admitting it's probably just a rumor. Still, she confesses her interest in meeting the vampire due to her fascination with supernatural creatures. Apologizing for her rambling, Tsubasa then asks why Koyomi doesn't have friends. He explains that friendships make people vulnerable, and he doesn't want to be affected by others' problems. She argues that friends can also bring happiness, but Koyomi responds that happiness would only make him jealous. As they reach a crossroads, Tsubasa mentions she's heading to the library and invites him along. Koyomi declines, saying he's not a diligent student and just hopes to graduate. Before leaving, Tsubasa takes Koyomi's phone, giving him her number and email address. After she leaves, Koyomi watches her disappear around the corner, feeling confused. He continues walking and passes by a car crash, feeling an unexpected burst of happiness that prompts him to toss his bag into the air. When he gets home, he finds himself alone and leaves the house and heads to a store where he buys an adult magazine. He glances at Tsubasa's contact info again before sighing and putting his phone away. Suddenly, all the city lights go out, startling Koyomi. He finds himself near a subway station and notices blood splatters leading underground. He follows the trail, and just as the lights turn back on, he sees a large blood stain on a wall. Further ahead, he finds a woman lying in a pool of blood. The woman pleads for help, and as Koyomi approaches, he realizes that her limbs have been severed. Horrified, he drops her and shakily tries to dial for help. The woman, however, tells him she doesn't need an ambulance, she needs his blood. Koyomi realizes this must be the vampire from Tsubasa's rumor. The woman introduces herself as Kiss-Shot Acerola Orion Heart Under Blade, confirming she's a vampire. She explains that she needs blood to regenerate, but since she has lost so much, she requires all of Koyomi's blood to survive. Panicking, Koyomi backs away in fear. Kiss-Shot begins to break down, flailing and splattering blood everywhere as she begs for his help. She crawls toward him, crying blood and apologizing profusely. Overwhelmed, Koyomi runs up the stairs but stops, feeling conflicted. He tries to convince himself that he doesn't need to help her, but eventually he returns to where Kiss-Shot lies. Lifting her up, he decides to give her all his blood, believing he will die from the act. Kiss-Shot bites into his neck, thanking him as he loses consciousness. Later, Koyomi wakes up, thinking the entire ordeal was a dream until he notices a young blonde child beside him. He tries to wake her, but she refuses. When he steps outside, the events from the introduction scene play out again. Koyomi catches fire in the sunlight, and the child, who is also on fire, drags him back inside. Once safe, she reveals that she is Kiss-Shot and explains that she has turned Koyomi into a vampire, making him immortal. Koyomi is only the second person she's ever turned. As Koyomi tries to ask more questions, the plot thickens. When he asks why, Kishshot, visibly offended, explains that the amount of blood he gave her wasn't enough to restore her original form, so she's taken on a smaller form to conserve energy. Annoyed, she steps on his foot and orders him to pat her head as a sign of obedience, which he reluctantly does, finding it strangely endearing. Kishshot then reveals that turning Koyomi into a vampire wasn't intentional. Anyone bitten by a vampire becomes one. Despite this, she's glad it happened, as she needs his help. Koyomi, desperate to return to his human life, asks if it's possible to become human again. Kishshot assures him it is, but only after she regains her full power. She explains that vampire hunters who severed her limbs are the key to restoring her strength. Koyomi's task is to retrieve her missing limbs from the 3 hunters. Only then can she return him to his human form. Later that night, Koyomi encounters the vampire hunters who speak in garbled voices, making their intentions unclear. Just as they prepare to attack, a mysterious figure leaps from a nearby building and intervenes, stopping the hunters. This stranger takes Koyomi to safety. Koyomi tries to thank him, but the man brushes it off, revealing that he already knows Koyomi's name, which surprises him. The man then explains that he was the one who brought Kishshot to the abandoned cram school where she's hiding. When Koyomi asks for his name, the man remains silent. They return to the cram school, where Kishshot greets Koyomi and remarks that the man looks familiar. As they discuss recent events, the man sits quietly in the background. Koyomi expresses his concerns about facing the hunters, knowing they were powerful enough to defeat Kishshot at her full strength. He also worries they might discover their hiding place. The man reassures Koyomi, saying he's placed a protective barrier around the building to keep them safe. Finally, the man introduces himself as Meme Oshino and explains that, unlike the vampire hunters, he doesn't perform exorcisms. Instead, he acts as a mediator between humans and supernatural creatures, oddities as he calls them. Meme offers to negotiate with the vampire hunters on Koyomi's behalf, but only if Koyomi pays him 2 million yen. Kishshot demands more details, but Meme remains vague, simply promising to help recover her limbs by negotiating with the hunters. Convinced, Kishshot instructs Koyomi to secure the money so Meme can assist them. Though hesitant, knowing he doesn't have the funds, Koyomi eventually agrees. The movie ends with Meme sarcastically thanking them, leaving us on a cliffhanger. This is the first film in a trilogy, so if you enjoyed this recap, stay tuned for the next installment.
At the beginning of the episode, we witness a massive monster attacking Earth, unleashing destruction with its overwhelming power.